This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, so now we will come to order. Can I have a voice roll call? Leslie.
Okay, so Pat,
Okay, can you close that door?
Metro, not here yet. Tom Brown,
Here.
Salem Derby.
I'm present.
Okay, Dawn Gretchen Moore.
Here.
Tony Corella.
Here.
Ann Longley.
Here.
Elizabeth McAnulty. Dave Paquette.
Present.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Cindy Travail.
Here.
New guest, Mike. Allison, are you part of the committee?
Okay, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes nicely submitted by Leslie from our last meeting, please.
Motion approved as presented.
One second.
Motion has been approved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? None. Public speak, I see nobody online for public speak, and there's nobody here that's public. You're all private. Sorry. Old business. I put this down because we need to decide, and I'd like to vote on it, that Park Street will be our official #1 site. And just to go over what we discussed, the ad hoc committee looked into all the sites owned by the city to save funds. And because we know it costs a lot of dough to purchase land wherever that might be, we looked at Highland Street and we looked at Holyoke Street and we looked at Daly Field, all of which have different issues that would make it difficult to use those sites. So my own feeling is we stick with Park Street, and because it has advantages and Allison has found nothing serious to eliminate it. It does have an avenue of 75 feet for a street to get to the site. It has 7 acres, of which we would need 5. So it's a pretty good site. So I'd like to open it up for discussion. I don't think we should list a #2 unless we find out that Park Street can't be used, which would be a serious blow.
Just to add to that, Dan, because people would see it in the ad hoc report, there were a couple of privately owned sites that made the list. And it's not just about the money, but in speaking with the owners, there was no interest in selling for any amount of money. Because there are some privately owned sites that would be very attractive if we had the possibility of acquiring them, but we don't.
Somebody's here.
And I would, I'd also mention that I think, without putting Allison on the spot, I think the Park Street site in total is actually much bigger than 7 acres.
It is, but that's the amount of land on the south side of the river.
I think it's west.
To the west side.
Yes. Oh, without crossing the.
Without crossing, yep.
Yeah, okay.
And if there's wetlands, most likely near the river, so.
I was just thinking about the future of potential expansion of outdoor activities, stuff like that.
I thought the 5 acres covered that too, so. Yeah, anyway, we looked at 5 acres. Anybody else on what I just commented on Park Street and not really putting forward a #2 because of the issues of the #2s that the city owns and what Tom just mentioned, private property?
Allison, did we look at the, on this site, the proximity to the aquifer protection area? it's outside of it, right?
No, I think it's within it. It was in my notes. I'm sorry, I don't.
But given that I remember writing that ordinance, we would only be covering a small amount of the entire site, which is a lot of acreage. I'm not talking about just where we're doing. You know, on the other side of the river.
It was like 20 something, 30 something.
Can you
acres
put
all
that
in.
up, Allison?
Put it on the screen, you mean? Yeah, I gotta join the meeting. It is in the aquifer.
Okay. Is there any
Like,
concern
right
about the
line.
impermeable surface?
As I said, I think it's.
The whole lot area says it's 64 acres based on the.
64
We're
acres.
only talking
Okay.
about 5 of them,
Yeah.
so. It's a little bit. Anybody have any other thoughts on Park Street? Another one, Tom? Or is that?
No, yes. I'm wholeheartedly in support of full steam ahead with Park Street. The only danger, I guess, in not having a second is if we hit a speed bump somewhere, we're way back to square one. And I wondered, maybe the mayor knows this or Mike knows this. Could we pursue without spending it so much, what it might take to get over the hurdles on Highland Avenue? Because
Well, we talked about,
that's much less restrictive. I know when we reached out to the city attorney, all he provided was all the legalese, but is there a way that the senior
You're a
center,
co-host now, so you should be able
is there a way that the senior center qualifies for recreational use? Because that's much, I think Highland Avenue is much less restrictive than Daly Field, for example. Because I don't think it's actually, I don't know if it actually comes under the purview of Park and Rec.
well, we would have to go to court. I think Allison mentioned that to get that determination to avoid Article 97. Is it Article 97?
Article 97.
And if we did, Article 97 is prohibitive because it takes so much to get it passed.
Okay.
So we would have to go to court to defend that senior center is recreational. Which I think we could do, but that'll take some time and then we'd have to hire the city attorney to defend it, right?
I mean, I don't know exactly, and maybe Allison knows the process
Yeah.
more, but I think we could propose that it would be, you know, a permitted use under Article 97 recreation and try to defend that. I don't know if we'd have to go to court to
Yeah.
defend it.
So the city solicitor's recommendation was to sort of preemptively ask for a judge to find that the senior center, whatever we're calling it, would be consistent with the regulations under Article 97, so that there could be no future claims against the city that would, cost us.
Does someone else have to approve it besides, like if a judge says that, do we have to send it to
No,
legislature, nothing like that?
if we didn't go through that process and we just tried to do it outside of getting the recreational use, then we would have to get I think it's a 2/3 vote from both the House and the Senate.
We'd have to do Article 97.
Yeah, and you'd have to provide in-kind land of equal value.
And all I'm
somewhere else.
suggesting, Dan, is we, again, full steam ahead on Park Street, but if this could be sort of a tandem behind the scenes kind of exploration, just in case. And then who knows, maybe if that was successful, all of a sudden people like Highland Avenue better. But behind the scenes is all I'm saying, behind the scenes.
I don't want to go backwards on Park Street. Island Avenue would be number 2. I
Okay.
agree that I'm afraid this will have to come under the purview of the mayor because the mayor would have to discuss this with the city attorney. Because if you're going to have a judge do it, you're going to have an attorney defend it, right? And obviously, cities attorneys.
And it might not be cheap, but it also, I mean, it's like you're not suing anybody. It's more of a determination, right?
Right.
Exactly, yeah,
So-
no, it's not.
So it would be, I mean, a magistrate, you'd go state your case
Well,
but you would need representation.
maybe if you discuss it with
I'll look into it.
Mark.
Yeah.
And just say, what do you think this would cost? And we could bring it up again. But for the record, I'm in favor of Park Street and I'd like a motion to approve Park Street as our number 1 site. Somebody.
I'll second.
I can't make a motion as chair.
I'll make a motion. Yeah.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to make Park Street our number one site to present to the future architect for examination. Anybody have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that's done. Michael, we put down the RFQ meeting. Cindy, I thought was going to present your discussion with Cindy, but since you're here, we'll go right to the source. This is the ideas of an RFQ, which we can't put out until an appropriation is approved by City Council. We agree with that, right, Michael? Correct. So go ahead, Mike.
So, what you're looking at is probably an RFP. request for proposal. Okay, and, discussions with Allison, we believe $100,000 is sufficient to do, the feasibility study. That's probably on one site, unless something immediately kicks that site out of consideration. Then you could move to the next site and pretty much maintain that same budget.
Okay.
But we're looking at about $100,000.
And
And I would, when we do the RFP, I would suggest that we have the option either setting a not to exceed figure or asking for a price proposal that we can negotiate with whoever is the first, second, third rate proposal.
but their proposal would come back with a quotation of cost.
Separate from a professional services proposal, yes. Separate price proposal from the proposal to do the work.
Okay, but we would get that
Yes, you
before we discuss this.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry.
I personally would prefer to have the second one you said, not to exceed, because they'll go right to the edge of that not to exceed.
They will, yeah, they will.
I don't think we should put down it's public record because approved by the council,
Mhm.
but I don't think we should put it in the RFQ. Let them give us quotes.
The advantage of setting the not to exceed is they know other people are going to be submitting proposals. And they will try to trim their costs as much as possible so that they're under the amount that we have to
Okay.
spend.
That makes
If you
sense.
don't include it, they might submit a proposal for more than 100.
Yeah, and then you've got to start with a price negotiation that might be at
Well, you guys know
$250,000.
better than I am. All right.
That makes
fine.
sense. That makes sense.
What else should we put in there?
Well, it has to be focused on a scope of services that we're looking for. We want them to do a feasibility study for us. So we want them to look at the land. We want them to consider our utility availability as well as utility capacity. We're going to look at wetlands, soils, traffic, the whole gambit.
Yeah, those studies have to come with it.
And and I would suggest you write this so that the firm that is successful, that it receives the award for the feasibility study, can also, upon our sole discretion, continue on with us to do the full-blown design, engineering of the building.
I would prefer that myself. It makes efficiency sense. But that's legal, right?
It is
We don't
legal,
have to
yes, we
go up
can.
with another RFP.
Yeah, we just have to disclose that in the initial RFP.
So is that an actual architect
Yeah, we would be hiring an actual architect
to do the design?
to
I mean,
do
the
the
feasibility.
feasibility, and then we would have the option to
keep
then
them on.
negotiate a final design fee with them and then keep them on as the designer for the building.
Michael, one of the qualifications I wanted very definitely is experience from architects building senior centers,
Sure.
designing senior centers.
Mhm.
If a architect says, we just did one and we've only done one, we did it. And then other architect says, well, that's what we do. We've done 30.
Mhm.
That kind of puts that person up higher on that firm higher on my list. And I wanted to know if that's legal.
Yeah, we could do that as well.
I think, does everybody understand that?
What if the ones that they designed were bad?
Well, that's a
Well,
good point.
there's as an example, I sent this, I think, to the chairs last week or week before. Minimum qualifications for this firm to do the feasibility work. The proposer and all their team members and principals hold a professional license issued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in their particular discipline. The proposer has, within the previous 5 years, experience in completing feasibility studies for the construction of X senior centers. You could call it public facilities. You probably want to get specific first with senior centers.
I want to be.
Has done 3 senior centers, has done 2 senior centers, has done a public facility. The folks that have done the senior centers would meet the cut
That's right.
based on what we want.
And the other thing that I would wonder is, are we allowed to call those senior centers or call
Sure.
to ask, how do you like your senior center? How was the process?
Yeah, that speaks to the qualifications of the key staff and their references. That's
To go to,
If we're lucky enough, it's somebody who did one locally that we visited.
okay, anything else, Mike? Your qualifications?
Like, I don't know if you want to clarify that if we'd have like a scoring rubric.
Yes. The state doesn't allow you to use numbers. Although I have assigned numbers to these review categories in the past. Again, there's going to be minimum qualifications, probably 3 or 4 minimum qualifications that they have to meet to submit. And then there's going to be evaluation criteria, and those are generally judged on highly advantageous, not advantageous, unacceptable. All right. And these would be qualifications of key staff and team members, recent relevant experience with public facilities, specifically a senior center, project understanding and approach, community engagement and stakeholder collaboration. Are they good at that? Have they done it before? Have they been successful in doing this type of collaboration? A community same and similar size than Easthampton.
That's something I would ask.
And it's the quality and responsiveness of the proposal. All of those get ranked. And then when you determine who has scored the highest on those rankings, they're at the top, and you start with them in terms of
You said
interviews and
something, you can't do
negotiations.
numbers. What did you mean by that?
But you can't assign numbers to these rankings. You're supposed to use the language of highly advantageous.
Oh, those qualifications.
Those qualifications.
I thought you meant we couldn't number.
No,
like-
we can't. You can't score them from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best and 1 being the worst. Okay, on those qualification categories, we can rank them at the end. That's fine.
So Mike,
Cindy.
So when Michael and I met, based on my conversations with folks on the committee, I just dumped on him, here's everything I'm thinking of, like pages and pages of information gathered from other senior centers' requests for proposals or qualifications. And Michael was honing in on the ones for this stage. So like when we're building that, when we're looking to hire an architect to actually build the senior center, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, then we'd be pulling in things like, we want to qualify to what extent are they good with universal design and design for dementia and aging and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
that
we
you don't need right now,
No,
right?
we want to address all those issues at the initial evaluation.
Even for the feasibility piece.
And the reason for that
We don't-
is
we're not
because we
going
don't want to go
evaluate.
back out to get
might
another
use the same
architect.
architect.
So I do have a much lengthier document than the one. So Michael has like a 1-pager of like, these are the key things, but embedded within those are probably other points that I have listed out based on what the other senior center projects had in them. And so then when, I guess between now, when the appropriation is secured, then we could refine this. So I don't know if you want me to bring up any of the other things that I was suggesting so people can weigh in on them, or if that's just for another time.
I would love it if we could have the RFP developed. We can't issue it until the appropriation is approved, but can we develop it? And I'll say this. Our next meeting is March 30th. So we got a long time before that. I am hoping an appropriation, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about that, is finished by then. But
I should be able to get you.
in the meantime, we could have an RFP developed, and I think certainly Allison and you and Cindy can develop this RFP and, maybe send it out to the membership. No, we can't do that. That's an open meeting.
We could share it out, but nobody could
Comment.
until you had
Until you come to the meeting.
Yeah.
You can
until you
read it in
reconvene.
advance of the meeting.
Well, then we'll send it out as part of the agenda for the March 30th, but at least it'd be done.
It'll be in a draft form, yes.
Done.
I just had a question, I think mostly for Michael and Allison, but, and I understand the idea of efficiency and putting all of this in so that ideally we have a candidate for this RFQ that we would keep going with. But we're not tied to that in any way, right? Like if we don't like the process or we feel, so there's no commitment that we would, okay.
yes.
Well, if
it's an
we had-
option.
Yeah,
It's an option, and the people that are doing the feasibility study had better do it well. Because there's a public meeting and they could find out that, yeah, this is a trial for you guys.
Is there any indication of that in the RFP?
Yeah, we have to put in a qualifying statement that says, this firm completing the feasibility study is also eligible for the full-on design.
So they'll know upfront
Design
yeah,
of
that
the building,
they
yeah.
could be in the game.
And the other thing I've just thought of is we need them to do, a drawing of some kind, because the end of the feasibility study is showing the pros of doing this on Park Street and how it would lay out so that those voters could vote on it. Because the feasibility study will also come up with a square footage cost we'd like.
But wouldn't that come up in the design phase?
Well, we have to tell them how much, we have to tell the citizens how much this is gonna cost.
Right, I thought you were talking about creating pretty pictures for people to see
Well,
before
I
you.
want them to put it on the land. This is
They
where
do
it'll
like
be.
a test fit out and they would come up with a programmatic plan for the spaces, which helps them with the cost
Didn't we do
estimating.
that for the schools? We had a picture of what they might be, right? No?
We did,
Probably.
the architects came up with that eventually, but not as
Not
part of
for
the
the vote?
initial process. Well, for the vote, but not as part of the initial process.
It would be part of the feasibility. study.
I think it should be part of the feasibility.
I don't know
study.
that they'd get much into the details of like facade, they might have a couple of ideas to put out
That's the
there,
part I
and
meant,
that would be
they sketch it.
refined, yeah.
Just a sketch. All I want is for the citizens to have a good idea of what we're getting.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna vote on it.
You want to know what your
Voting on it,
taxpaying
and
dollars are gonna.
they have to come up with, well, if you do this, it's gonna cost that.
Right.
But to Allison's point, by the time we went to the vote for the school, we had a rendering that was a
Well, because you
beautiful
already had
picture.
the architect hired for the whole thing, right?
It's different with MSBA.
Yeah, MSBA.
But it's
there's
not
more
out of, that's
upfront.
not out of the question. Again, it's more, but it would be more of like a conceptual facade.
That's
than
what I'm
a-
trying.
What I mean is it
Yeah.
can't be one dimensional. If it's lines on a piece of paper, nobody's gonna vote on
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's gotta
It would
have
not.
shrubs in front of it.
They
It's
have
gotta look beautiful.
Programs, they can make beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
of what-
They'll put into a chat bot.
Yeah.
Chat AI, have AI do it, huh? Okay. Anything else for Michael?
Michael, is that something you do for us, the RFP?
Yeah, I can get this drafted for you, sure.
Okay.
Well, I'd like Cindy and Allison to be involved.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
once you get,
This,
just to
this,
draft it
this
out,
team,
I think because they know what they're doing.
well, we're learning.
I mean, Cindy's done a whole heck of a bunch of research on,
That's what I'm saying.
on other communities that have gone through this process.
It'd be
so.
great if it was put out before the meeting in March so that we can discuss it at the March meeting. You can't make email comment, but you can look at it and, all right, and then
Make your own
maybe,
notes.
Formulate your thoughts and your
So
notes on it, sure.
just to clarify with open meeting law, so if you are sending to the whole committee something to review in advance of the meeting and you're saying that's on the agenda, doesn't that have to go with the agenda as an attachment or a link that the public can also view ahead of time? No?
That's best practice usually to.
well, we can do that
I
when
mean,
we
we-
put out the agenda, but we can also put the draft out to the membership so they
Okay.
can have more time to formulate questions they might have.
Just checking, because on the Council on Aging Board, we put everything on the website so everybody can see it before the meeting if we're looking at it, but I wasn't sure with them. Okay. All right.
All right?
Okay.
Allison was gonna put up Park Street for us, just to,
Well, she
I
had
had
it
it
up.
up.
She-
I
Oh, you
can
did?
put it up if you want.
guess I wasn't looking at the screen.
Do you want me to share it again?
Yeah, why not? Tom wants to see it again.
I was looking at you, Dan. I never saw the screen. I didn't know it was up there.
Let's make Allison work. While she's doing that, as chair, with Cindy's help, I did make a request to the mayor for an appropriation for $100,000 for a feasibility study. Do you want to say anything about that?
Mayor received that request.
What are the chances of the end of March having that before city council?
I think, better than zero. Yeah, no, I mean,
A typical
Having it
politician.
before city council or past the finish line?
I would
Yeah,
like
I
it
mean-
past the finish line. In other words, you put it
Yeah,
in
that
the
might-
first March meeting and then they can get it.
I mean, full disclosure, basically what I'm doing is trying to get a read of where my budget is going to fall. And because that's the responsible thing to do before I make appropriations for $100,000 is to, and so that means I need to sit down with my departments and see what their budget proposals look like. And so that's happening in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
So by the beginning of March, I should have most of my meetings done and have a much better idea of where the budget's going to fall, which then I can responsibly say, yes, this is something that we can do, and not, I need to make sure I cross my T's and dot my I's. I'm not going to get ahead of myself on my first budget.
Okay,
Makes sense.
I would reiterate, well,
Another question for Mike, because voters will ask eventually, or someone will, if we get this RFP and we get the design, whatever, what's the shelf life of those?
we can't put it up.
Hard to say, maybe 2 years,
God help us if it takes that long.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, because I could see that question coming up from city council. If we don't approve this now, or if we do approve it, but then the voters don't approve it, have we wasted the $100,000?
Well, we haven't wasted the $100,000 because I don't think it's a waste to ask the voters for this very important building.
Totally agree, but the what if? So we spend 100,000, we get this work all done, we go to the city council, we go to the voters, and in the unlikely event the voters don't approve it, if I was a city councilor, I would say, have we thrown away the 100,000, or how long is that investment good for?
Oh, that's what you mean.
Correct.
There's not really an expiration date. You can ask them to cost escalate out a certain number of years in their estimate, which is
And that
typical.
would be typical of a contingency. Fund.
Yeah, the feasibility work is pretty much fine. But again, those cost estimates, those are going to be good for maybe 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Okay.
I guess I'm assuming for a cost estimate, they probably have some clause statements in there for unforeseen.
Yeah, there'll be a contingency. in
They're not
there.
liable if
Yeah.
there's
There's
no
no
facts.
Yes,
fail.
yeah.
They're going to look at a standard square foot price per square
Right.
foot constructed.
So this is Park Street. And I assume that green area, that light green area is wetlands.
This is White Brook runs through here and there's some bordering vegetated wetlands. And then it would also be a riverfront area. So 200 feet from the median high water line would not be,
How far would that be, Robert?
I can measure it.
Great program you got there.
Tingler would know too.
For 200 feet, is that a flow?
Perennial
Conservation
stream,
agent?
yeah,
Okay.
I believe so. I mean, the conservation agent would definitely weigh in on that, but this is about to there.
And then how much acreage is on the other side of that, west of that?
So this is, again, very, very rough. Seven and a half.
Perfect. No problem. Okay.
Meets the cut, yep.
All right, well, I like it.
And you did say, Allison, that that piece that meets Park Street is wide enough for a conventional road.
75 feet, right?
Yeah, a normal right of way for a road is 75 feet. I mean, it would really be a driveway, not a road.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's plenty wide.
Okay,
And there is an existing road there.
there is?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything coming off of Mark.
Well, it's covered in snow now.
A farm road.
Yeah, we go down to the old pig farm. I mean, this was the pig farm.
You can kind of see it in the
Yeah,
center here.
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything else on the RFP for members or Park Street? Then the next discussion is the Architect Selection Committee. I wanted to alert everybody to this because I certainly don't want a committee that's more than like 7 members, but we can't have 7 members of the committee because that's a quorum. And as Cindy brought up, we might want the interviews to be private.
Is there some part of the interview that's supposed to be private, Michael? Or
Interviews
is it?
cannot be private.
No? Okay. So we could have
I
7.
mean, we don't publicize them. But they are open to,
Well, the other reason is for efficiency of discussion. I wouldn't want more than 7 members personally. 7 people on this committee. And we would like to, Allison's not on the committee, so she wouldn't be a voting member, but I'd like her involved in hearing them all. We're supposed to give same question to every.
yeah, for interviews, we
We
would develop.
would come up with a series of
set.
questions and the interview would be the same.
And we go around to the members and the members could ask those questions,
One at a time.
kind of like a round robin fashion. So they get to interact with with whoever the proposal is in front of them, making their case. All the committee members get to interact with that person or persons.
Does 7 sound like too many?
Well,
I was thinking more like 4 or 5.
Well, here's the thing. I would like the chairs, and Leslie is very familiar with the other places in the valley. So the one architect says, well, we built South Hadley, we've been there. And I would like Tom's been involved with the schools. I was involved with the high school. So I know what architects can bring forward. And I like Tom because he was the chair of the school building committee. I think 7's okay because I want to open it up. That's 4 spots left to anybody that wants to be on it. So we don't have to select that final committee because we're not going to have interviews until the RFP is out and we decide how long it's going to be. So I just wanted a discussion of, is that enough? Is that too many? And is it okay with you if we have the 3 of us on it and then the other 4 to be on it?
Should anybody be on it from outside this group here? And who would they be? What type of profession
You
or?
mentioned Bob Parent, right?
Yep.
Bob Parent's an
That would be a
engineer.
good one.
I was gonna say, I feel like some practitioners and also potentially, I don't know if there's someone from another senior center who's a director who recently built a senior center and would have some input into the process, I think could be a really useful person.
The only difficulty with that is getting them to be a bunch of interviews. We have to decide how many architects. Do we interview everybody or do we eliminate some in a meeting and just, Michael, is that?
Yeah, who's met the minimum qualifications?
Do we have to
who's-
interview the
Who's
people?
who's gone on to the qualitative comparative evaluation criteria? And
We can
then-
do that before we interview them?
Yes, all that is done before you.
So we don't have to have
So you have the top 3 or top 4.
that. So my only question on that, Dawn, is can we get that director here for those meetings? Because that director is busy.
And I would say to that, this is something that can be done hybrid.
Oh, there you go.
So these interviews, because that's what we did for the school reuse, was basically, I think we did all those meetings hybrid.
They're all hybrid.
Yeah.
I would just caution, if it's someone that has worked with a specific architect and that's who's in the like, they're gonna be inherently biased in one way or another. So I think that's where the references come in handy, because you call them and you can ask them about that one architect that they worked with and
I
get
think
their
that's be the
candid
better way to go.
feedback. Okay.
I like Bob Parent, but maybe you know him well.
Yeah.
You could ask him if he'd do it. Because he's an engineer, he used to be in, what is the city he worked for?
Holyoke, he's worked in Amherst.
He's DPW director or something.
He did it all. He was even a town manager.
Holyoke, wasn't he a planner in Holyoke or something, planning department?
Oh, it was DPW, but he
In any
also
case, he has a lot of knowledge that.
I remember sitting before him when we put a branch.
And then 3 other members of the committee, of the full committee. How many of you want to be on it?
Well,
Everybody.
yes.
Well, and that's, I was gonna, I mean, if everybody wanted to be on that, you know, what's the role of the subcommittee versus the committee? Is the subcommittee going to make a recommendation to the full committee? You know, and if so, does it make sense for everybody on the committee to be sitting in, maybe if they're, you know, on the interviews, even if it's not participating, just viewing and.
Well, there's the advantage of that, making the entire committee, the selection committee, is that if we're missing members like tonight, we can still vote on it.
Mhm.
We can make our decisions.
But I think to the mayor's point, Dan, we could have the entire committee participating. So they're not voting on somebody cold turkey. They've seen the interviews if they choose to come. But your selection committee is still a core. So you might have 15 people in the room, but your selection committee is only 5 or 7 people.
Those are the people that are going to be facilitating and asking the questions. So it doesn't become unruly, but.
Right. Just so we're not in the dark. So if I'm asked to vote later on a specific recommendation, I've heard everything that went into that recommendation.
Yes.
So this is for Michael. What is the state requirement for the designer selection committee and how that's formed?
Simply appointed by the mayor.
Does it have to be?
But it has to be appointed for
It
that
is appointed
specific
by the mayor.
purpose. Has to be appointed for that purpose, and that committee makes the decision. I don't think
They don't
they
bring
make
it
a
back to the full-
recommendation. They decide,
Oh,
as far as I understand
The
it.
selection committee.
Yes.
They make
So
the
it just-
decision.
And that's part of the designer selection law.
That
I
makes
just know
sense. Yep,
there
that
is-
makes sense.
But the mayor would appoint members of this committee.
Dawn had a question.
Oh, no, I think it was earlier. I just appreciate what you were saying, Tom. If I am not on the committee, which I feel like Cindy and I have shared a lot of the process that we've done together, tons of knowledge and research. So I don't feel like I need to be if you are, but if I'm asked to make a decision, I would want to hear them. Was my only.
Well, I think all the committee members are certainly invited to the interviews. But to go to Mike's point, the selection committee of 7 members, I'd like to keep it to that. May ask the questions.
Right. And make the decision.
And you guys, the rest of you are there taking notes, and then we make a decision. And I don't think the selection committee is bound not to ask non-selection committee members, what do you think? Right? Is that okay, Mike? In other words,
It's all about.
there's 7 selection committee members. And then the rest of the membership of this committee is here. Along with, well, Allison would be, if I wanted Allison on the committee, she'd be voting member of the selection committee, as Bob Parent would. But the other members would still be able to give their point of view to the selection committee, couldn't they? Sure.
They just couldn't vote in the end.
They
Is
didn't
that
have the
what?
vote, but you could influence
Okay.
the vote. I think that's great.
So I'm going to ask a different question.
Okay.
So I think, 7 people is a lot of people, it seems to me. But I think my question is, what expertise do you need to have at the table to review those proposals? I mean, Bob Parent sounds like he'd be a good candidate because he has lots of engineering experience, at least I think. I don't know. But, that's the thing is, I think Cindy absolutely has to be there. Me, yes, I saw a lot of things. But, that's my question is who really understands, right, what they are going to be looking at, right?
I had reached out to people associated with a local university or college who would not be bidding on this project to see if they had somebody from their company, which is like Capital Projects. I think I had pinged back and forth with the mayor on this like a month or two ago, because somebody like that would be excellent. They, you know, they're consulting on
Again,
this stuff, but we didn't hear back, you know, so.
And well, hybrid makes it possible.
Right.
I think 7 is the maximum. I think we've already got Bob Parent and we've got Allison for sure.
I won't be able to participate.
Conflict of interest.
Right.
Her husband's an architect.
Who's going to bid on this?
It's not his line of architecture. So I will say that.
So Allison can't be on the committee. So anyway, Tom and I have done some work, but with the buildings that we worked on, high school and Mountain View. So anyway, I think having all the members available to influence the committee makes me feel better about this 7-member committee making the final decision by law. But the fact that you guys can influence it.
I think, Dan, the number of hands that went up here were 5. Leslie, did you want to do it?
I want to make sure the right people are at the table.
The number of hands that went up here were 5. 1, 2, I counted Cindy, 3, Tony's 4, 5. Were the hands that went up that were interested in serving.
So we have Bob
That leaves Bob
Parent,
Parent
6.
and 1 other.
All right, I
Should
would
the
like
mayor
to be
be
here, but as far as any kind of experience, I know this senior center and I've seen some others. But other than that, I don't have any experience.
And I don't think I can lawfully be on the selection committee, right?
You probably don't want to be.
Yeah. And how about you?
So you can
Because I feel like you're the
I
master
could-
facilitator for this.
There you go.
I'd be happy.
That's be the 7th member.
That's-
If I'm asked by the mayor to serve, I will be.
Well, we'll finalize this at the March 30th meeting.
2, 3.
I can reach out to Bob.
We okay with 7 though? I don't want to go any higher than
I'm
that.
only at 6 if,
I'm okay with 7. I'm just a little curious if there is another professional in the building industry that could be on this committee, especially if, say, Allison is not in this committee. I think to Leslie, that was a really good point. I don't have the person off the top of my head. I know Cindy had mentioned this facilities person, but I think it could be useful to have one other person that knows it from that side or from managing the projects as well, if we have one extra spot. I agree with your 7. 7 is great. I'm just trying, I don't mind thinking about and brainstorming a little bit, just if there's somebody else we would offer up to bring that perspective.
I bring up Pat Proff, who's not here. He's also been on the building committee for this Mountain View, so he has a lot of experience. So I wouldn't mind Pat being on the committee because of that.
And I can offer, I mean, I already have a letter that I wrote that was going to go to this person associated with this college. So it can be used to solicit engagement from another professional. So, you know, that.
I
that
think
part
we're
is fine.
okay if Pat wants to do it and Bob Parent wants to do it. That's 7.
the problem might be finding that professional who doesn't have a conflict.
Well, that's why this was ideal, but there could be others. And I mean, to Dawn's point, I think if I'm capturing what you're saying correctly, you know, there's a difference between a lay person who's been involved in their community and building projects and a person who professionally is working on big capital and big public projects, you know, if we can benefit from their expertise. But this is my first time being involved in creating a designer selection committee. So
I think Bob Parent does bring a lot of that to the table, of what you're describing.
I mean, but, to be fair, we haven't asked him yet, so we don't know if so it might make sense to have other alternates available in case he.
Why don't you do a little research on it? You can tell that person what we're doing. So would you have a conflict of interest is one of your questions. Allison, does this mean you can't even come to it? You can't influence anything. You can't even discuss it. That's a loss.
But if the firm doesn't put a proposal forward, then once that happens, then we get Allison back.
So related to the solicitation, we're looking for another professional, and then thinking of sort of timelines. How do you know, like realistically, if we're trying to get that, what timeline do we, if we're going to pursue that seriously, do we want to?
Well, we don't have to have we put the RFP.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm just saying.
At the end of March, let's hope for that
Get the
positivity.
draft in front of you at your next meeting.
And then we can put it out because maybe we have the appropriation approved by city council. Once that's done, we can finalize this committee. And you're finding out about Bob.
Do you think it's reasonable if we were talking to someone else to think they might be involved like in April or May? In terms, what would be like if we were looking for someone who might be part of this committee?
Well, how many weeks would this RFP come out? Just realistic, Mike?
How many weeks?
How long
Be
do we keep
advertised.
it advertised?
You want to advertise it for at least 3 weeks.
Okay, so we're talking April before we,
Yeah, at least 3 weeks, maybe
Start.
4.
Well, there's requirements for getting it in the central register.
Yeah.
Right?
so we're talking April before we meet as a design selection committee to whittle down the finalists. All right, I'm just gonna pray to the gods of appropriations to see if we can get this done. Anything else? Because it's 10 to 6 and I meeting, but
This is just more of a question, really. So I know we don't have a second site, which is fine, but in terms of like in the parallel and background, sort of like, is that something that should still be percolating?
well, he's going to ask the city attorney.
Okay, so that's the essential.
Cost, and he can report back March 30th on, because we're gonna need a city attorney
Right.
to defend
Yeah.
our recreation of the senior center's recreation facility.
And then the Holyoke Street one was just dropped because of the road situation.
Traffic
yeah,
situation there.
Which is,
would
that's
make
what I
it.
mean. Yeah.
I think public safety's already weighed in on that.
Yeah,
They got wind that we were looking at that site and they already weighed in that they would be showing up in force saying that's not a great site from a traffic
Right,
perspective.
yeah. Nice. Then you look at Rotary.
Roundabout at
You
the bottom of the
bring
mountain.
the roundabout up. Everybody comes out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it's tight.
All right, then, if there's nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Our next meeting is
you.
March 30th.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.